Well, hello there and welcome to the living room of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Eustace Elfers for April 10th, the day of daring. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of daring. We have what appears to be, what could it be? Oh, it's a big basket and a hot air balloon. It looks like maybe a daredevil. He's standing on the edge of the basket. I don't know if you can see that, but it's there. That said, does that speak to the day of daring? Hey, I would say it might. And in a lot of cases, these images are rather enigmatic, so it's interesting to get one that kind of measures up to the title. That said, does the visual representational image really matter? Not particularly. It's just something I like to throw in there so you can see what I'm seeing here on the page. That said, what is important around these here parts is it's April 10th, and hence, it's somebody's birthday. So if your birthday is April 10th, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important. But if this video finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, well, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday if that's the situation. That said, a lot of times other folks like to join us because they're interested, or maybe they share a loved one and they want to celebrate. Hey, and if that's the case, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. That's right, it is the Diecast birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake. But if you've been here before or you just want to get to the redirect, hey, skip ahead in the chapters. I'll be here rolling dice because I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled us a 5 and a 1 for a 6. That's right. Now, what is synchronicity, you might be wondering, if you haven't been here before? Well, as I hear it told folks, a lot of the times the universe or the higher powers that be will put things in our path to help us actualize our goals or maybe manifest our aspirations. But oftentimes we're very narrow of focus. I mean, we got the blinders on to what's going on around us, so we're not apt to see what the universe is putting in our path. So there's a little bit of an experiment to help us start trying to pick up on those things. How do we do that? Well, we need some kind of mutually agreed upon sign, if you like. That's right. The daily numbers, something to look for in the world, maybe chase down when you see it, or just to use as a little bit of a reassuring guide that, hey, you're on the right path. That said, how do you maybe dive into this more? Well, you can grab a pair of dice and head out to, I don't know, someplace you've never been, or maybe someplace near and dear to your heart, say the downtown square, and then get yourself your daily numbers, and then you just ascribe directional values to number sets like north 1 through 3, east 4 through 6, so on, and or you can even get even simpler, the evens, odds for yeses and nos, or left and right, and then time limits with which to go in those directions. That said, like I mentioned earlier, get those blinders off, all right? You never know, the day might start to take on a bit of a theme. Outside of your numbers, your 1 and 5 for a 6, or whatever you choose, you might start to see things creeping up into the day, taking on a bit of a theme. Take your hot air balloon. You might not see the real thing, but maybe you might see an advertisement for one on a bus that passes you by, or a sticker for one on a transformer box or a road sign. Just little things, but you know what? Like I said, I think it's there to show you that the universe is with you on your side. It's there to say, hey, you're on the right path. That said, you can dive into this even further, let it take you to places. You might find, hey, you roll your dice, your time limit, your directional value. This thing puts you right in front of a building with your number and the address on there. And then you can roll the dice and say, should I go in there, yes or no? Even odd comes up, says no. All right, well, you just roll the dice. And then, hey, you know what? Maybe somebody stops right then and there. What are you doing? Well, just be forthright. Tell them what you're doing. Probably looks a little crazy. Maybe admit as much. I don't know. Tell them, this guy on the internet told me about it. They're going to say, that's nuts. And you're going to say, I know. And they go, well, that too. But what's even crazier is, it's my birthday also. And hey, you know, maybe the universe was lining that up for you. Something crazy. You never know. You just got to get out there and try it and see what you see. So if you see, taste, touch, smell, intuit, even just a little bit of that kind of magic, hey, you'll understand why I brought it up. All right? And you got to do something fun on your birthday. So why not give it a shot? Shake it up a little bit. That said, I think you get the idea. Let's get on with the read. That's why you're here. Your month is April. Your day is the 10th. Your sign is 19 to 21 degrees, Aries, of the Aries II period specifically. And your quality and element is Cardinal fire. All right. April 10th, the day of daring. April 10 people have the courage to be themselves and to see their projects and ideas brought to fruition. Although they are not afraid of opposition and of fighting for their way of life, those born on this day do not seek confrontation. They are not daredevils in any sense of the word. Their courage is more a kind of moral fortitude based on the strong principles and just simple common sense. Often a career change figures prominently in the lives of April 10 people. An earlier preparation for a career, perhaps one decided on too harshly or through parental pressure, must often be put aside once their true calling comes along. The importance of finding this true calling cannot be overemphasized. Though, as mentioned, April 10 people are not reckless types. To others, they may appear to be taking too many risks. They may even be thought foolhardy, yet in hindsight, their daring is sometimes appreciated and the risks involved seen as quite shrewdly assessed. To the April 10 person, it may not have seemed risky at all. It is true that many April 10 people have a lifelong fascination with gambling, not only in life, but at the actual card table or casino as well. It is the thrill of the competition and, of course, the fun of assessing their chances that drives them on. And April 10 people have a real love for their profession. This, coupled with a love of independence, makes a normal family life difficult for them. Yet paradoxically, they have a great need to feel settled. And in this respect will be extremely dependent on an understanding mate or a friend who will always be there for them. And in fact, their relationships tend toward the unconventional. There are two distinct types of April 10 stars, as they're called. The first is the loner working on solo projects, developing a style, craft, or talent in relative isolation from others. And the second type is the full-blown social star, a leader who seeks out followers. And April 10 people of this second type have a missionary zeal which can galvanize others to their cause in the most energetic fashions. And then, unlike the introverted April 10 person who devotes his or her energy to a personal, often technical study and with a grand design. But though they are outwardly oriented and wish to be appreciated, these realistic gamblers have no time for sycophants or hangers-on who are only there to provide a false kind of pride or conceit. More highly evolved April 10 people of both types recognize that blinding egotism or belief in their own infallibility may prove fatal in the next encounter. True warriors, they know their limitations well, and though they push them to the limit, they rarely overstep. And those born on this day feel little but disdain for wild schemes or shoddy planning. They are happiest when they can conceive a plan or idea and carry it through in a single master stroke. All right. Quite the interesting breakdown today. I do say, I know for you it's probably just whatever it is, but this has a lot of things going on for it. It totally bucks convention with the typical Aries birthday breakdown. And I say that because in a lot of cases there's far too many similarities. I don't know, I'll get into why that is here briefly. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on the things we just read, also sweeping anomalies and or similarities in the period. And so we'll get into that here with you right now. Let's do it here. April 10, Day of Daring. You're said to have the courage to see your projects and your ideas brought to fruition, and you aren't afraid of opposition and to fight for yourself. But in the same breath, the reading claims you don't specifically seek confrontation. And your courage is rooted in moral fortitude and principle, which is interesting considering yesterday, a day very proximate to you. So a lot of times there's carryover or bleed through. That wasn't the dynamic at all right? They could be amoral individuals in their pursuits. And that was a huge anomaly for them. Normally the Aries folks are very down to earth and they don't stray into amoral territory. So that one was a bit of an anomaly. But for here, you're going back into more of a typical Aries convention. That said, you do share the common sense that comes with Aries also, and a realistic approach to life that was also said for yesterday specifically. And I love when there are such swinging characteristics between days so close together because it kind of bucks tradition. A lot of times in the book, there's a bit of a carry through depending upon, not depending upon, but day to day. And then it just kind of subtly changes over time. Here, there's been some swings, so I like when they switch it up like that. But despite that fact, in and of itself being interesting, it's kind of uninteresting insofar as there's so many different things. This particular element pops up with Aries, that all these similarities popping up. But it's very interesting here that you're kind of bucking a little bit of that. But again, Aries writ large has been bucking tradition with its anomalies. So it's kind of oxymoronic in a certain case that it's interesting and yet uninteresting, I think is what I'm trying to get at. That said, what else do I have here? With the book itself, like I said, Aries has been bucking tradition, and it's really crazy how it's been doing it, because everything you would lead to assume it's going to go into it with the planets and the things that come up, it goes another way. And so here for me, like I said, kind of uninteresting at the beginning of this period because it's just I was having trouble even writing the notes because everything was so similar. But it's also interesting in the fact that that's popping up, since that's not the case with the rest of the book. What else do we have here? Oxymoronic, as I said. But back to you. Career changes are said to be common for the day, which is an uncommon trait for Aries, as it happens. But a concern for finding a true calling being emphasized for you, that is very common. It just seems that everybody else in the period seems to be able to find it a little easier, ostensibly. So maybe this video in and of itself is a sign for you to start thinking about putting into work to figuring that out. Or maybe you've known that's the case. Maybe this is just that extra little push, all right? That said, I'd also say this comes to the idea of valuing your time. It's a precious commodity that we can't get back. So keep that in mind. That's also been a little bit of a budding theme the past few days, so maybe take note of that. What else do we have? This mention of gambling and being seen by others as foolhardy, that's new. That's just for you. But I like that doesn't seem to actually be the case. And the reading claims you cleverly assess such things, all right? You like a little bit of the thrill, if you like. That's not something that comes up very often here in the Aries, if at all. I don't remember it. But it's this attraction to thrills that's novel, all right, for this particular period, as I said. This love for independence, however, quite common in the period. Conversely, this desire to be settled is definitely paradoxical, and not just for the day, okay? The period at large, all right? What else do we have here? This need for an understanding mate, however, a little bit common. That's come up a time or two the past week or so. And this examination of the star types specifically, however, that's new, all right? The period itself, everybody's kind of said to be stars, though they don't necessarily come off in a pretentious kind of way. So very interesting, very down-to-earth kind of grounded way of approaching as much. But it's great for you, I would say, because they actually dive into people who are like very extroverted and those that are introverted. They haven't been doing that the past few days. And so it's kind of at a detriment to those individuals, because I imagine the other folks on those other days who are stars in their own right, but have their particular avenue of approach, they didn't get any kind of examination like that, but you did. So that's interesting that has only come up for you. Because I think it would have benefited them as well if they had taken a moment there. That said, what else do we have here? I've seen both dynamics mentioned in passing in the book, but again, they haven't drilled down on it like they did for you, so that's nice. What else do I have? All told, a lot of Aries qualities pop up today and bleed through here, but this thrill to gamble in life and be clever about it, and hey, that's all you. Haven't seen it pop up before. And hey, this need to push your limits, I would say that's also yours entirely. A lot of the folks in the Aries period, They find their little job or their occupation that they love, and they follow it. Very common trait. Here for you, that gets switched up a little bit. There's also this very interesting societal or social dynamic that always presents, and it kind of seems to be magnetically attracted to Aries folks in a variety of different ways, but that's the common denominator, that social aspect. And in a lot of cases, these folks, they don't particularly care about it too much. It's just something they live with. They are more focused on what they're doing and accomplishing their own goals. And however the rest of that factors into it, it's just kind of secondary. That said, a little off base there. I was losing my place. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense. But let's get into your numbers and your planets. That's right. Let's see what else we can see here and what else comes up in an astrology, how you say it? Not astronomy, but astrology sense there. Here we go. Those born on the 10th of the month are ruled by the number 1, as 1 plus 0 equals 1, and by the sun. All right. Those ruled by the number 1 generally wish to be first. The sun's influence is further strengthened in April 10 people by the fact that they are governed by the planet Mars, the ruler of Aries, and are still more desirous of a primary position. Though number 1 is the number of, although 1 is the number of leaders and of ambition, it says, as already pointed out, April 10 loners prefer to develop personal goals. The extroverted April 10 person, however, displays fully the marked leadership qualities of number 1 people. Again, they're showing a differentiation. Interesting. In either case, a Sun-Mars connection grants considerable energy to those born on this day. Well, all right, this was a highly personalized numbers and planets entry. That bucks a lot of typical convention that I've seen in this whole period, basically. They might personalize it a little bit, not that much. So interesting they did that, and they even drilled back down on the extroverted, introverted aspect of it. Not something they usually examine in a numbers and planets entry. That said, what else do I have to say here? Let's dive into it. The number 1 and the sun for a Sun-Mars rulership. So a fiery strengthened influence for the Mars, god of warlike energy and adventuresome ambition. Sun-ruled days, by and large, typically have this hyper-focused theme for the day. It'll take some characteristic or aspect and then just drill down on it and see how that relates to the individual's life. I didn't really see that here so much, though it did seem like somehow you were very specifically getting all these different anomalies that Aries has been producing, and it kind of hyper-focused on those and broke those apart and expanded it. So maybe that's that sun dynamic in no small part. That's the only thing I can really think insofar as that common denominator of most of the sun-ruled days brought up in the book, how they focus on some aspect and just really drill down on it. So that's kind of interesting as far as I'm concerned. But then they also they drilled down on this star aspect of you and further broke it down, gave more recommendations. That said, I can totally see the Sun-Mars energy aspect in the breakdown. But as mentioned, with the ambition, that adventuresome ambition, I'd say be mindful and measured of your actions. And it said you do that insofar as the gambling and the like, so well within your ability, I would say. But a lot of times Mars folks are very impulsive. They react on things in an aggressive, angry way a lot of times, and so they have to show a lot of balance. That keeps coming up day after day after day. Mind your balance. So let that kind of creep in a little bit, despite the fact it sounds like you got it figured out. At least insofar as from what I discerned from the breakdown, all right? And so the people who don't understand until later when they see that, hey, you were shrewd and clever the whole way through. So maybe that's the dynamic there, who's to say. The sun further emboldens the planet that it co-rules the day with, and Mars in this case, with its earthly kind of grounded power, maybe too grounded, who's to say, can be aggressive and impulsive, like I mentioned. So perhaps what's emboldening a lot of these anomalies found in Aries, like I said. And like as I said before, there's just a bunch of them. This day is very interesting, to be sure. That said, that's been your numbers and your planets. Let's move on to your tarot. One of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies there. But hey, we don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out cards. Let's just see what it has to say. Sometimes it informs the breakdown or can serve as a further metaphor for things we've already discerned in the breakdown. So let's get into it here. In the major arcana, the 10th card is the Wheel of Fortune, which signifies a reversal of fortune and teaches that there is nothing permanent except change. This propensity toward gambling of April 10 individuals has already been noted, and this quality here is accentuated, bringing its ups and downs, wins and losses, successes and failures in life. And those ruled by the number 1 and 10 focus on seizing opportunities. Acting at just the right moment is the key to their success. And the accompanying glaring successes and failures associated with the Wheel of Fortune teach that no success in life is permanent, nor for that matter, any failure. All right, you got another highly personalized entry. The tarot is famous for not doing that. So again, they're really pulling out all the stops with you today. And I keep saying it. They don't normally do this. Yesterday, I don't think got it. Day before didn't. You got both numbers and planets. So, and I think famously, the Wheel of Fortune card, they don't often say too much about it. So I'm glad that they brought it home for you and kind of showed a relation there. Probably burning down everything I have to say in the notes. Let's get into it already. Wheel of Fortune, a once-a-month card that examines, as mentioned, reversals in fortune, which the reading correlates with this gambling on life dynamic. It may seem like a rather easy association, but at least they made it, okay? This card often doesn't include personalization, as I mentioned. Including the numerology aspect of the 1 and 10, and it's being associated with seizing opportunities. It even furthers that point, and I don't believe I remember reading that they're doing that in the tarot section. So again, they took some time to change up the copy a little bit here. I appreciate that. I think it was yesterday or the day before they changed up the copy on the numbers and planets, but they didn't say anything novel. It was just like they wanted to revise themselves. It's like, what a missed opportunity. Not here for you, all right? But I would say the takeaway is the reassurance that everything is subject to change, and to say the likes of keep acting, keep pushing forward, keep doing, which is easy for Aries folks. So a nice reminder notwithstanding. And don't get mired in disappointment. I think there's a little bit of that seeded into this particular day. Also setbacks and the like. And maybe a little bit of existential crisis at certain points, especially if you haven't figured out your passion or your purpose, and there's a little bit of a struggle therein. So, but for someone who's an individual and wants to feel settled, a little bit of an oxymoronic aspect there. If you're a highly devout individual, if you like, I reckon then maybe that's a little bit of that existential crisis there too, and which that card's particular dynamic may speak to. All right. And that aspect that pops up on occasion, as is natural with the human condition, I would say. But that said, that's been the tarot. Let's move on to your health. Here we go. Cultivating the ability to relax is a key to the health of an April 10 individual. Worry about temporary setbacks and accompanying depressions can be debilitating. Those born on this day take criticism very hard, which may not only rob them of their energy, but also manifest in various discomforts, notably headaches and skin problems, it says in parentheticals. April 10 people do well to have a private area in which they can retreat periodically to recharge. This doesn't come up often there, so maybe take note. For the extroverts mentioned, this means time away from the public eye. For the introverts, a needed respite from their work. And interest in food and a diet without too many restrictions can be stimulating. April 10 people must beware of alcohol or drug addiction. Interesting. Occasional drinking or smoking balanced with a healthy sex life is a better compromise for those with such urges. All right, here we go. Another interesting health entry. Sometimes they just hit certain wickets. They're in and out. It's personalized, mind you, but sometimes not so much so. And Aries, by and large, has been missing a few of those things. They haven't been drilling down on the things they typically do elsewhere in the book. So let's get into it here. See how they personalized it for you further. Learn to relax, they said. I said, don't hurry, or don't worry rather, about temporary setbacks, okay? And here they're hinting it may be a larger issue than they mentioned in the breakdown, I would say. Don't let criticism rob you of your energy. And personally, I like to make my changes to criticisms in ways that kind of, what do you call, infuriate the criticizer. All right, I like to reclaim that power to some extent. And then they show them that change, and you can see they're totally downtrodden. But it's like, hey, what do you want? I took your advice. I made the change. I like to make it my own because I feel like there's a certain sense of power that folks rob for you when they criticize. So take the advice, change it, and then change it in a way that they might not like. That's my advice. Okay, a little bit of an instigator here, but maybe you appreciate that. I feel like you might. That's the idea I had to write. So there you go. What else do we have here? I wrote, it's just that you didn't like the way I took your criticism and put it into practice. All right. That said, carve out a time and place to rally and reconcile your hardships in the two different ways they mentioned for the introvert extrovert. Again, interesting, they're examining that for you. Usually, if they do bring up a little bit of an examination, it's just in the one section. They've been keeping with the period here, or the each section. I like it. What else do I have here? So I'd say that's huge. Reconcile your hardships. And like again, hasn't come up in a while. It's going to also be said for being mindful of balancing your vices. This one's pretty interesting. Again, hasn't come up too often this period. But it's interesting. They say manage it with a healthy sex life. All right. So interesting substitution, I would say. Maybe take note. Also, there's a few folks, not very many, just a peppering in the book of folks who got that sexual addiction on the day, are more apt to have it. So they say stay away from it. Balance that aspect, interestingly enough. So if that's a vice, hey, I don't know what you're supposed to balance or counterbalance that with, but hey, that's a different conversation, all right? No diet or exercise recommendations here today, which is surprising because that's, well, maybe not so much surprising, but surprising for today because they've been changing up the dynamic. The typical Aries dynamic here has been not to give those recommendations so much, not to drill down on them the way they normally do, which is to say, they'll usually give very specific foods for diets and very specific exercise regimens and or methods of doing as much. To say with Mars individuals specifically, they tend to get aggressive or vigorous, what's the other one? Strenuous exercise recommendations, ostensibly to exercise your god of warlike aggression and energy. They even mention combative sports sometimes. They didn't put any of that in here, but that doesn't necessarily matter because Aries, again with this anomalous aspect here, they've just been getting moderate recommendations when the recommendations do come up. And the reason being, from what I've discerned from a few of the days they mentioned it, is because you're already so active in your everyday life anyhow, getting after things, being the doer. And so ostensibly, if you were to go out and exercise even more, your god of warlike energy and adventuresome ambition would cause you to maybe hurt yourself because you go too hard, too fast, too long, whatever the case. So moderate. Also, a balanced diet has come up here quite a bit. Even swing diets have been coming up here the past few days, or hinting at staying away from that kind of thing. Be consistent, establish a routine. Mars days, typically, they can eat whatever they want, meat and the like, and be very generous with themselves. But Aries has been an anomaly, all right? So be at least balanced and be mindful of, taking it easy, not being too crazy, I guess. Especially if a swing diet is something you're thinking about. Take yesterday's recommendation and avoid that. Accept the routine. That said, that's been your health. A little long there, but I think I conveyed a lot of points. Oh, also they mentioned headaches, all right? Real quick. Aries body area is the head, the neck, and the spine. And so they mentioned once chiropractic if you need it. And then headaches and stress, be mindful of. Again, they didn't drill down too much on it, but here it got mentioned for you, so I wanted to take note. So mind the stress and the headaches, okay? That said, that's your health for sure this time. Let's move on to some advice. Here we go. Let up in your intensity and beware of your obsessive compulsive side. All right. Enjoy the simple pleasures of life. Personal success is just as important as social success. Follow your heart sometimes, not always your head. And learn to turn off your motor and cool your heels. All right. Very interesting advice for today. All right. I didn't quite know what to make of it in a lot of cases because it seems like they were drawn from something that I didn't really pick up on. Let's get into it here. They said, don't be so intense or obsessive compulsive. I didn't really pick up on that from the breakdown. That said, I imagine a certain amount of talent or ability comes from that. All right. Balance again would be the watchword in that respect. And again, a common theme for Aries. Okay. Enjoy simple pleasures and socialize. What we got here? Mostly for the introverts, I would assume. And but mind your intensity if you're an extrovert there. You might come off too hot with some folks with your adventuresome ambition. A little bit too intense, okay? So you might have to pump the brakes, learn to read the room a little bit. Also, like I said earlier, I think, was Aries has this naturally intrinsic approach to societal issues. You draw people in. So you might not have to do much in order to be extroverted, if you like. It comes natural. So yeah, I would say temper that a little bit if you have to, if it seems like you're pushing folks away. I'm probably getting off point here. What did they say originally? Enjoy simple pleasures and socialize. That's right. Simple being the key word for the extroverts, and then socialize for the introverts, unless I switch those. I think you get it. Let's move on here. They said, follow your heart, not your head. Don't analyze things too much in your risk assessment, maybe. Again, this is another one I couldn't really make sense of. It's great general knowledge, I would say, but or things to think of in general. But also impulse and instinct kind of comes up for me, insofar as that comes up a lot for Aries individuals. That Mars energy brings impulse into it. Versus instinct, and there's like a differential there. You don't want to go on impulse so much because things can get aggressive. All right, negative versus a positive. What else do I have here? Follow your heart, not your head. They said don't analyze things too much. Risk assessment, maybe. I said all that. Also, you may risk missing happy accidents if you're chewing your head about things. So if you kind of let things go as they come and please with your heart, following that instinct, boom, you might find something that's just going to blow your hair back. All right. If you were thinking about it too much, you might have missed it, or you would have second guessed it perhaps if it did happen and wouldn't take it for what it is. All right. They said take time to cool your engines. All right. I wrote here, most motors require the equivalent of an oil change at the very least. All right. I think maybe you're going too hot, too heavy a lot in what they're trying to say here, and so you need to take a step back. You're too big of a doer, if you like. Again, I didn't really pick up on a lot of this stuff in the breakdown, so I don't really know where they're coming from with this one. But maybe take heed. As I heard told, the author of this book interviewed a bunch of people for each day and then took a common consensus, applied it to the astrology and all the stuff to get the most drilled down approach to the day as they could. May or may not apply to you, but ostensibly that's how they arrived at it. Common consensus reality there. That said, that's been your advice. Let's move on to your meditation. That's right. It's your birthday. You get something to think about. Oh, they told you not to think too much. Here we go. All right. Just let the heart do the deciding here, I guess. Here's your meditation here. Simply seeing is an act of creation. Oh, all right. Once more, simply seeing is an act of creation. All right. I don't quite know how to interpret that one. I do kind of get a sense, but you know what? Your birthday, your meditation, I'm not going to influence it for you. That's for you to reflect upon. That said, meditation in the can. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. Here we go. Let's see where you've got the girth, and we otherwise a little more atrophied in the bargain. Your strengths are you're involved, you're courageous, and you're daring. All right, but they said daring in a different semblance of the idea there, ostensibly. But your weaknesses, what could those be? I don't know. Did we get an idea for as much? Let's find out. Your weaknesses, it says you're unstable, obsessive, and stressed. You know, I don't know that I picked up on these so much. Maybe it was in between the lines or something, or it was just a quick little either way, oftentimes I like to argue that our strengths are going to help us overcome our weaknesses. But in the same breath, I like to argue not to get rid of your weaknesses altogether, because they're just not just that they're part of who you are, but I think they can be strengths in and of themselves. Let's see if I can make a case here. How could your strengths help you overcome your weaknesses? You're involved, courageous, and daring. Involved, I would say, hey, you're gonna put yourself toward the task of figuring out how to overcome these weaknesses. You're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of it. Courageous, hey, it takes courage to work on weaknesses, all right? Insecurities and the like, all right? Some folks just can't approach it. If you got the courage, hey, even if you're uncomfortable, you're gonna get into it, all right? You're gonna get involved. And you're daring, hey, kind of the same argument, all right? But hey, maybe you take even bigger chances so that you can maybe overcome that weakness just by far more distance than you even needed to. You want to make sure it's in the back there. That said, how can your weaknesses be strengths? You're unstable. Hey, you're going to keep people guessing, all right? What's going on here? I don't know what this individual's up to. Sometimes you need that. I don't know what the circumstances might be, but a little bit of instability. Maybe you need to put people off the scent for a little while. Get them off your trail. Keep these socialites from coming in at you. You need some time alone. Hey, just show a little bit of that instability there. Again, I didn't really pick up on you being unstable. Maybe I think they said you might have some ups and downs, depressions and the like. Maybe a little bit of that, but I still didn't pick up on it. Obsessive. Maybe that a little bit. And you're getting into how you're cleverly shrewd with the gambling and the like. How is that a weakness? Hey, maybe you're missing the forest for the trees in a lot of cases, or you're letting your life kind of go towards that thing a little too much. But as a strength, hey, don't you want someone obsessive? That's if there's this problem that nobody can solve, you want someone who's dedicated to it, I would say. All right, so much so that they don't go home for the night. They're still working on a problem when you get there in the morning. All right, I would say that's a strength. In that case. All right. Also stressed. How could that be a strength? I don't know. You know this individual's getting into the weeds with this particular problem because they're going, they're turning red over it. How could that be a strength? I don't know. I don't really have a case for that one. It just gets into that area where, hey, they're really putting the time in. Oh, maybe that brings people in to help you get over the hurdles. I don't know. I can't always make the case. That said, I think you get the point, all right? Again, not the strongest case for as much, but hey, your strengths are going to help you overcome those things. Again, I didn't think you even came off that stressed either, so the strengths and weaknesses are a little bit of a miss today for a otherwise very well-rounded birthday reading by my estimation. But more to my point, hey, don't get rid of your weaknesses altogether, whatever they may be, because I don't necessarily agree with this one. Because I think they're part of who you are. All right, use them when you can is what I'm trying to get at. That said, that's been your strengths and your weaknesses, for better or for worse. Let's move on to those born on this day. And we get into those born on this day, I like to examine it from the perspective, and you might appreciate this since it was mentioned here in the book on the breakdown of chasing our passions, figuring out our purpose in life. It said you might struggle with that a little bit, regardless of the outside influences that kept you from figuring that out. And I bring this up because I think this is the perfect opportunity, not only see who shares your company, who shares your birthday, but see what they did to get in the book. And maybe that can serve as some inspiration for us to get our gears turning so that we can start applying ourselves to figuring out what we want for ourselves, all right? Because I think it's important folks have a purpose, something that gets them out of the bed in the morning and gets them excited to dive into things. Because if you're just punching a time clock at a rigmarole job and then you're using the weekends to rally so you can go do it again ad nauseum, hey, I don't think that makes life very fulfilling, all right? But what if you had a job that was in and of itself, all right? Or just a purpose in life, something to get after. I think it makes it worth living. So that's the focus here. If you already have that in your life, as many other Aries seem to, hey, then the hat I'm not wearing is off to you. Let's just see who shares your company. Let's get into it here. Those born on this day. Here we go. We have Matthew C. Perry, a U.S. Navy admiral who opened Japan to the West. We also have Joseph Pulitzer, a Hungarian U.S. journalist, publisher, and it says endowed annual journalism and arts prizes. We also have Frances Perkins, first woman U.S. cabinet member, labor secretary under Franklin Roosevelt for 12 years, it says. We also have William Booth, Salvation Army founder. We have Samuel Hahnemann, a German U.S. physician. This is a homeopathy founder. Paul Hérault, a French chemist, and discovered the method for extracting aluminum at the same time as the American Charles Martin Hall, and died penniless in obscurity. Oh, that's unfortunate. He discovered how to extract the aluminum and it didn't get him anywhere. We also have Claire Booth Luce, a U.S. Congresswoman and ambassador to Italy. We also have Paul Thoreau, playwright, novelist, and responsible for a work by the name of Three Wogs, W-O-G-S. Never heard that one before. We have Hugo Grotius, a Dutch 17th century historical theological writer. And we have A.E., the letters A period E, and it says George Russell, Irish poet and a mystic, so ostensibly his stage name, A.E. We also have Max von Sydow, first person who I've recognized yet, a film actor. We also have Omar Sharif. There's another one. Film actor, bridge player, it says. Interesting. John Madden, Oakland Raiders, football coach, 112 game, it says. Super Bowl winner, nine-time Emmy Award-winning sports commentator. I didn't know that one. We also have Dandy Don Meredith, football quarterback and sports commentator himself. Pat Steer, New York painter. Ben Nicholson, British geometric abstract painter. We also have Kenneth Noland, a post-painterly abstract painter. Interesting, some of these. William Hazlitt, British essayist, romantic critic. And Chuck Connors, a film actor. Herwenta Faggs, F-A-G-G-S. Not that that's important, but U.S. track and field champion. That said, some of these folks, the daring aspect of it, I was kind of waiting to, but I had to remember and remind myself, not that you heard it, not necessarily daring in a conventional sense. The guy that opened up Japan to the West, hey, he didn't necessarily put his life on the line to do it, but it wasn't a daring idea. Well, I lost my train of thought. I had some otherwise poetic way of putting that into focus, but hey, you know what? If it wasn't like yesterday where I didn't recognize any of the names, we had some actors and the like. So I suppose there's, that's my train of thought was, I'm not, these people that seem to invent their own genre of painting, if you like. I've never heard of post-painterly. Hadn't heard of geometric abstract painting. Like that was what my thought was, like, whoa, maybe they're just pushing the goalpost forward like so many sports folks that were in here too today. That's what I was getting at. All right. Long in the tooth today, folks. Sorry you got a long one from me. That said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. I hope this serves as a little bit of an inspiration for you to start chasing your own purpose. Because if I can hope for anything on someone's birthday, it's that you're doing that, finding a purpose. That said, your season is spring. Your sign once again is Aries of the Aries II period specifically, and your quality and element is Cardinal Fire. All right. This has been April 10th, the Day of Daring, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. All right. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description, rather. That's right above a personal message I put together for the birthday boys and girls. If you're interested in checking that out, you haven't heard me drone on enough. That said, this book makes an excellent coffee table book, or if you're having a party and you want to get the conversation started for better or for worse, like we did here today, hey, just break this thing out, and it's sure to do as much, all right? That said, book having been related, not altogether all too important in the scheme of things. What is the scheme of things? That's right. Wishing you a happy birthday, like I said at the top. So happy birthday. And for everybody else who joined us, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, learned something about your intimates or your friend, loved one, whether you agree with it or not, or maybe you got more insight into what makes them tick. Who's to say? But all this to say, I hope to see you on your birthday reading, all right? So once again, happy birthday. You heard it here. Happy birthday. Get out there, chase your daily numbers there. You'll win your 5 or 6. Let the universe show you it's with you on your path. And keep doing, keep pressing, keep being shrewd and clever about your life, all right? but find a purpose. I would say that's the takeaway, at least the one that I like. Okay, so that's it. Once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourselves.